Transform, going beyond your form. Listen to each thought, let it sink in, and begin putting it into practice, beginning now. Number 1, know in your heart that there is an invisible intelligence in everything, and you have the power to make contact with this divine intelligence and create a life of bliss. There is something divine that rolls through all things. You can't get a hold of it? A little seedling has treeness in it when it is put into the ground. You can't see treeness, you can't see the tree, yet you know it is in there. And same with you. You have greatness. You have an energy that is so powerful, and it flows through you and in everything that you come into contact with. Know it, begin to trust it, and you'll find yourself experiencing transformation in your life. Number 2, this is your sacred quest. The doorway to higher levels of awareness in your life opens inward. And most of us spend our lives facing the wrong way, looking outside of ourselves for the solutions to our problems. Where inward, in that silent, quiet, empty space within, is where the universal intelligence lies. It is where your essence as a human being is. Begin to look inward rather than outward each day. Number 3, become aware that there are no accidents in our intelligent universe. Realize that everything that shows up in your life has something to teach you. Appreciate everyone and everything in your life. You need to begin looking inward at who you are and why you are here, instead of outward at the physical world or anything in it. Make this a day of appreciation, a day of being in awe and bewilderment of everything that you come into contact with. Appreciate your liver, appreciate your eyes, appreciate your legs, appreciate your mind, and everything that you come into contact with. Instead of judging it, just appreciate it. Number 4, draw your inner energy from the beauty that surrounds you. When you do so, this energy reception will become a source of strength and sustenance in your life. As you begin practicing beauty appreciation and seeing it in all things that you encounter, including all people, as you begin to see the fullness of God in everyone rather than something to judge, you'll find a new kind of bliss in your everyday life. Number 5, be peaceful, experience silence, meditate, and really listen to God. The result will be that you will find the solution to each and every one of your problems, whether it be related to relationships or finances, health, or self-image, all within yourself. The peace and the quiet and the solitude all come from an understanding that God's one and only voice is silence, as Herman Melville reminded us. And if you can just be, even for one moment today, just peaceful and just go within, you're going to find a bliss that you perhaps didn't ever know before. Number 6, forgive yourself for your transgressions. See that mistakes are lessons for you to transcend. Release yourself from the tyranny of self-recrimination. Make the decision to be free. Everything that's ever happened to you in your life has happened for a reason. And when you are filled with an absence of self-forgiveness, and you're full of recriminations about what you did or shouldn't have done, or what you should have done, all of these kinds of things are really a message that you're sending to the universe saying, God's plan doesn't work and mine does. That's really an insidious thing to say. Everything that you've done or experienced is over, and you had something to learn from it. So forgive yourself and move on with your life. Number 7, write down this ancient truth and reread it on a daily basis. When you seek happiness for yourself, it will always elude you. When you seek happiness for others, you will find it yourself. Number 8, attempt to remove all enemies from your thoughts. The same intelligence that flows through you flows through all human beings. When you know that you are connected to all, you cannot fathom striking out at others. let alone feeling hatred for them. Or another way of saying this is, on a round planet, there's no choosing up sides. We all are here for a reason. We all have the same divine energy flowing through us. And when we stop thinking of ourselves as separate from everyone else, we begin to see and experience the love that we are here for in the first place. In my opinion, God doesn't want us to love God. God wants us to learn to love each other. That's what it means to be a holy being, to not have enemies and to love each other. That's truly what loving God is about. Number 9. Release everything that you have been told is impossible or unrealistic, and allow yourself the freedom to make your own contract with God about what is possible for you. Examine all of the doubts that you have about miracles and miracle workers, and replace the doubt with openness. Be open and release everything that you hate.
What gratitude does is it keeps you connected to that source which brings things into your life. It keeps that connection open because gratitude comes from love. See, there's two ways to look at things in your life. There's to appreciate what shows up in your life or to depreciate what shows up in your life. And to depreciate it means to complain about it, to whine about it, to resent it because it's not big enough, it's not shiny enough, it's not what I wanted. That's a depreciation. And appreciation, to appreciate, means to have a sense of being grateful for it.
And that most people that I have encountered in my life, and it's why I talk about this in commencement addresses and make this one of the secrets, if you will, for success and inner peace along the extra mile. Most people are spending their life looking for occasions to be offended. And when you are looking for occasions to be offended, you are a depreciator. And you will never have any shortage of occasions to be offended. They're out there all the time. There will always be somebody who'll dress differently, whose hair won't look the way you think it should, whose clothes won't match, whose language is something that you don't like, whose demeanor is off or whatever. And you'll find that every day, no matter how nice, a beautiful day it might be, there's still a puffy cloud that can come through and ruin it, and they're looking for that.
Gratitude, there's a wonderful definition that I use for gratitude. Gratitude is the complete and full response of the heart to everything in the universe. The complete and full response of the heart to everything in the universe. And this gratitude disallows feelings of separateness from what shows up. See, resentment or complaining or fault-finding are things that block you, are obstacles to that free flow. They reinforce the idea that I am separate from that and it's not giving me enough. Gratitude for what shows up and expressing that gratitude with affirmations and regular affirmations of it is a way of keeping that channel clear between you and that divine presence. There's a wonderful little old joke about a lady who was on the beach with her grandson, and she's walking along the beach, and all of a sudden this huge wave comes along and picks up the little boy, and he disappears. And she just goes down on her knees, and she just doesn't know what to do. This is my grandson. Please, God, send my grandson back. I can't stay. What has happened? How could this have happened? Oh, please, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And all of a sudden, another wave comes along and plops him right back down, right in front of her. And she looks at him, and she turns around, and she goes on her knees. She says to God, he was wearing a hat. You know? I haven't thought of that story in a long time. This idea is not just, as I said, it's not just good citizenship we're talking about here. It's cultivating this attitude of flow, of allowing, of permitting things to continue to grow in you, because gratitude is love. Now, the hardest part about gratitude for most people is the understanding that you have to also be grateful when things don't show up. And you have to learn, this is the toughest part, you have to learn to be grateful for that which you don't have, and for the suffering that you are going through, and for the experiences of scarcity that seem to be present in your life. Because in essence, until you can be grateful in these moments and understand that you can't have sobriety, generally speaking, without having known its opposite. Everything in the physical plane has its opposite. People who have been through addictions generally know and appreciate and are grateful for those addictions when they transcend them. You won't find very many alcoholics who are in recovery who will say, I resent my addiction days. Instead, what they say is, they were the greatest teachers I ever had. And I couldn't be where I am today without having had those. Now, this is true for all of our experiences. When people say to me, can you really say that you are grateful that your father walked out of your life when you were just a baby? Can you really say that the time that he spent in prison, and the fact that he never sent any money, and the fact that you had to spend early years in foster homes and so on, and away from the rest of your family, can you really say that you're grateful for that? I say, my father was my greatest teacher. I never met the man. And I talked about that on an earlier program. But without my experience of learning to rely upon myself as a young boy, I couldn't, as a grown man, be teaching self-reliance today. Couldn't do it.
Life is a journey with 3 ascending paths. On the first path of your journey, you learn through a process I call enlightenment through suffering. At this stage, you ask, why me, when something occurs that is painful or difficult? After a while, you see, with the benefit of hindsight and suffering, that it allowed you to move on to another life experience of great value. You realize that you had to experience the pain in order to transcend it. Some people continue this cycle their entire lifetime. They never seem to get the message that unless you learn from your mistakes, you are doomed to repeat them. For persons in this category, real magic remains unavailable. If you recognize the first path as a pattern in your own life, then you probably have moved up past suffering as your means to learning to enlightenment through outcome. At this level, you develop a knowing that says, there are no accidents. Everything I am experiencing is necessary for me to move ahead to the next step. This is a shift of paramount significance. The shift in your mind allows you to look at the outcome of an event or experience and what you can learn from it. Instead of a poor me approach, you shift to a learning approach. You ask yourself, how can I create the outcome I want with what I'm presently experiencing? Many people spend their entire lifetimes on this second path. They see obstacles as opportunities. Living at outcome is far superior to living at suffering. What is missing in their lives, however, is the possibility of experiencing real magic and the ability to make miracles happen. For this, one needs to go to the third path on this metaphorical journey. I call the third path purpose. Learning that you have a heroic mission and getting in step with that mission is the path I'm encouraging you to take as you begin to introduce real magic into your life. Everything in the universe has a purpose. The invisible intelligence that flows through everything in a purposeful fashion is also flowing through you. Here's one way to begin the process of getting to purpose. First, think about the concept of eternity. No beginning, no end, just like the concept of God or nature or the universe. Try thinking of your life as a parenthesis in eternity. The parenthesis opens the moment of your conception and closes at the instant of your death. The space within this parenthesis is your life, surrounded by something called eternity. There is something that is very much a part of us that is invisible. Call it mind, thoughts, consciousness, soul, or even Louise if you like. The invisible self, the part that is not your physical sensory self, is the part that can contemplate eternity. If you even mildly accept the notion of eternity, then it is real for you. Remind yourself that everything exists for some reason as a part of the perfect intelligence that is the universe. Next, right here and now, go back to being a child again in your mind. You will see that the childhood experiences, whatever they were, helped that little person you were to become the adult you are today. I'm not asking you to judge, like or dislike, approve or disapprove. Simply see that each experience led to the next and offered you something to grow on or not to grow on. As you travel backwards in your mind, you can go all the way back to your infancy, right back to your very beginning. Mentally, contemplate the speck of time immediately preceding your conception when you were still part of eternity. There had to be an instant when, for whatever reason, you came from what we call nothingness to somethingness. The question I pose to you is, why? I suggest that your presence in the world of form has a grand mission and that you can discover and begin thinking, feeling, and behaving in ways consistent with that mission. For me, Wayne Dyer, in the 1990s, I have gone back in my meditations and discovered why I showed up in form back in 1940. It feels very clear to me. I accept that I was born to accomplish certain things, and that each and every experience of my life since conception has led me to this purpose. My purpose is to give, to serve, to promote peace and prosperity, and to become totally, unconditionally loving to all people. Getting to purpose in life by going within and discovering that purpose is about loving unconditionally and serving alters one's worldview dramatically. Miracle making is then just around the corner. Suffering decreases measurably because the emphasis ceases to be, why me? When you go beyond outcome in life, you find yourself unconcerned about what's in it for you. You go beyond success, achievement, and performance as indications of your life's mission. Your purpose takes hold and you gain a sense of joy and inner harmony, knowing that you are divinely fulfilling your reason for being here. Once you begin the journey toward a life on purpose, you enter the realm of real magic. When you are on purpose, you are truly flowing with life, experiencing a kind of harmony that comes from not having to strive for something else. You sense that you are being watched over, and your actions come from this inner beatitude of rightness or centeredness. Live your life entirely on purpose and renounce any and all credit that may come your way from your actions. Be consistently aware of the need to serve God and to serve others in any and all of your actions. This is the way of the miracle worker.
But I've noticed that since I have begun to view the world that way and view people, even people who are behaving in a negative way or in an abusive way, I have a tendency to think that they're still good people who are acting out in a way that really isn't reflective of their divineness and who they are. I found that I hardly ever run into it anymore. I hardly ever run into negativity. I hardly ever run into people wanting to take advantage of me. I never think of people ever wanting to steal from me or take things from me or to push their way in front of me and so on. And it's almost like I have that expectation and it doesn't happen. I just don't see it. Or maybe I just have blinders on and I just simply don't see it. But whatever it is, it's like my view of the world has really shifted. So one of the ways to get people to treat you the way you want to be treated, I think, is to view people as good and decent and caring and important. And then to understand that your experience of everybody in your life is really nothing more than your thoughts about them. I mean, you can't be somebody else. You can't get behind somebody else's eyeballs and be another human being. So the only way you have to experience them is through your thoughts, through your process. So your experience of your co-workers and your husband and your children and everybody that you come into in your life is all done in your mind. That's where your experience of them takes place. And if in your mind, which is your corner of freedom to have and to think any way that you want to, if in that mind of yours you tend to view people as good rather than as evil, you tend to see the positiveness in life rather than being focused on the minority, the tiny, tiny percentage of negativity that's in the world, you're going to almost create that with your expectation. At least that's been my experience. I have taught people how I want to be treated basically through a very simple thing called the golden rule, which goes way back. And it's not the golden rule that applies so often in the capitalist world, which is he who has the gold makes the rule. It's the opposite. You treat people in life the way you want to be treated. And I find that as I do that, wherever it is, wherever I am, just a little while ago over at the airport, a lady was having trouble with her suitcase. It was a very, very heavy suitcase, and she just couldn't manage it. And I just walked over and carried it 100 yards for her. I mean, she just was so grateful and so happy, and so that would be exactly what I would want somebody to do were I little and trying to, or say I lived in a world where people were giants, and I was who I am was little, and I couldn't manage something. If someone would just come along and give me that helping hand, I have found that as I treat people that way in my life, that they almost always respond the same way. You can do this in your mind. It doesn't just get measured in acts and in deeds. You go into a busy, crowded place, say a restaurant, you don't want to wait 2 hours for a table, and everybody's milling around and angry and all of that, and you find that if you're very peaceful about it and very loving towards the person, and you'd let them know that you'd like to have a table earlier for whatever reason, or your wife is pregnant, or that you're in a hurry, and you find that people want to accommodate you. They don't want to put you ahead of other people. That isn't what I'm talking about, because you certainly always have the option of going to another restaurant or whatever, but you find that people want to do things for you when you carry yourself in this very positive and loving way. At least I have found that. I have found that with my children and in my family situation, I find that more and more we have a much more loving bond between us because of this sort of golden rule philosophy that I'm espousing here. And part of this golden rule philosophy is taking responsibility yourself for how you're choosing to process things that you might previously have processed in a way that would cause you to be angry and upset and hurt and so on. You can very often see somebody striking out at someone verbally, and you can diffuse that really fast by simply saying something like, boy, you're really having a tough day today. I see that you're really frustrated. There's so many things going wrong. Boy, it must be really tough to try to manage so many different people. And it's like all of a sudden one caring person has entered this person's life who everybody else thinks of as this abusive or nasty or whatever person. And all of a sudden that person is like, how can I help you? What can I do? Giving them something, whatever. It's like taking responsibility yourself for turning it around, And the more that you're able to do that and to approach situations in your life that way, it seems to me that the less likely that you're going to be somebody else's victim.
One of the things that he observes is this. All of the great teachers throughout the history of our species have merely taught one thing over and over, in whatever language or whatever time. All have said very simply, give up weak attractors for strong attractors. Period. Give up weak attractors for strong attractors. And he says individuals of great power throughout human history have been those who have totally aligned themselves with powerful attractors. Again and again they have stated that the power they manifested was not of themselves. Each has attributed the source of the power to something greater than himself. All of the greatest teachers. That there is a power. And the division between power and force, if you look at the cover of the book, power is in white, a higher energy, and force is in dark, a lower energy. And what I'd like to do here is first kind of give you an idea of what the lowest attractors are. Photographs have energy, and even books, as I've talked about here in this program. And they've actually done studies where they'll take a photograph of someone who represents high spiritual principles, a Mother Teresa, a Jesus Christ, a Ramana Maharshi, a whomever. And they'll also take a photograph of that which represents very low and weakening energies, a Charles Manson, an Osama bin Laden, an Adolf Hitler, people who have represented evil to the eyes of many people. And they will have, people will not know what photograph that they are holding next to them, next to their chest, next to their heart. And the photograph of the person who represents higher spiritual values above 200 will allow them to stay strong, whereas the photograph of that which represents lower and slower energies will weaken them. It's almost defies our credibility, our sense of, is there really energy in everything? And kinesthesiology is one of the ways that we are learning to test that which will weaken us and that which will strengthen us. What I try to work on in my own life every day is that when I am having a thought or a picture or an image that is based upon something that will weaken me, and I know what those are, that if I just stay there and change the thought to a thought that is a counter thought that will counterbalance that, that I not only make myself feel better, but I am no longer having an energy that is going to weaken me. And remember, the heart is a muscle. And the body is surrounded, all of the organs of the body are surrounded by all of these muscles, all of which go weak when you use certain thoughts or have certain pictures or put certain substances into your body. Alcohol, drugs, tobacco, things like this will make people go dramatically weak, almost instantaneously. And he gives all kinds of examples of how and why that works. He said that when someone calibrates above 600, which on the map of consciousness represents the life view of God view of all being, a life view of perfection, a level of peace, the emotion of bliss, and the process of illumination. The highest, almost the highest level, because between 700 and 1,000, there's so few people who've ever been there that it's all lumped into one category. That anybody who calibrates above 600, that is one of those St. Francis type people who, whenever they encounter anything, they always have nothing to send but love, that I've been talking about throughout this program, that everyone who encounters someone who calibrates above 600 and enters their energy field is automatically healed. Such is the energy that they radiate. But he said if you stay in the energy field of someone who calibrates and radiates at this level of consciousness that all of us are capable of achieving, that everyone that you encounter, every living species, will automatically be healed just by being in the presence of that. And most of us know that there are people that we feel better around than others, don't you? You have a sense that sometimes when someone walks in the room or someone gets close to you, sometimes their energy is so bad, and it isn't because they have body odor, it isn't because their teeth are crooked or because they've got bad breath or whatever. It's because they come into an energy field and they are lowering the energy that you are with, and you have a sense of feeling worse when they're in your energy space. And you also have a sense of when someone enters your energy field, it can be a total stranger, or it can be someone you respect a great deal, or someone whose work that you have admired, and they come close to you and come into your energy, and you have that warm shower feeling running inside of you. There's something, and all of a sudden there's like a healing that takes place. Remember when I had put you into the gap in the meditation? And when we talked about embracing silence, and when you go into that gap, what you're doing is you're raising your energy level, just ever so slightly. But the fact of moving your energy up, just in an instant of going into that gap, gives you that really sort of warm, good feeling inside of you, because you've reconnected to something that is higher. Everything in this universe is a movement of energy. Higher, faster energy dissolves and converts lower and slower energy. With this in mind, I'd like you to consider yourself and all of your thoughts in the context of being an energy system. That's right. You are an energy system, not just a system of bones and fluids and cells, but actually a multitude of energy systems encapsulating an inner energy system of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This energy system that you are can be measured and calibrated. Every thought you have can be energetically calibrated along with its impact on your body and your environment. The higher your energy, the more capable you are of nullifying and converting lower energies, which weaken you, and impacting in a positive way everyone in your immediate and even distant surroundings. The objective in this section is to become aware of your own energy level and the actual frequencies of thought that you regularly employ in daily life. You can become proficient at raising your energy level and permanently obliterate energetic expressions that weaken or inhibit your connection to intention. Ultimately, your goal is to have a perfect match with the highest frequency of all.
Here's a simple explanation of the 5 levels of energy that you work with, moving from the lowest and slowest frequencies to the highest and the fastest. The slowest energy, number 1, the material world. Solid form is energy slowed down so that it's approximately commensurate with your sense perception of the world of boundaries. Everything that you see and touch is energy slowed down so that it appears to be a coalesced mass. Your eyes and your fingers agree, and here you have the physical world. The second level of energy is called the sound world, a little faster energy. You seldom perceive sound waves with your eyes, but they can actually be felt. These invisible waves are also high, low, and fast and slow. This sound level of energy is where you connect to the highest frequencies of spirit through the practice of japa meditation, as I've written about extensively in Getting in the Gap, which includes a CD to teach you this meditation. The third level of energy is called the light world. Light moves faster than the material world and faster than sound, yet there are no actual particles to form a substance called light. What you see as red is what your eye perceives a certain pulsating frequency to be, and what you perceive as violet is an even faster and higher frequency. When light is brought to darkness, darkness becomes light. The implications for this are startling. Low energy, when faced with high energy experiences, an automatic conversion. A fourth level of energy is called the world of thought. Your thoughts, your actual thoughts, are an extremely high frequency of pulsation that move beyond the speed of sound and even light. The frequency of thoughts can be measured, and the impact that they have on your body and your environment can be actually calculated. Once again, the same rules apply. Higher frequencies nullify lower. Faster energies convert slower. A colleague I admire enormously, David Hawkins, a medical doctor, has written a work which I've referenced over and over again called Power versus Force. In this remarkable book, Dr. Hawkins elaborates on the lower frequencies of thought and their accompanying emotions, and how they can be impacted and converted by exposure to higher and faster frequencies. I really urge you to read this book, and I'll present some of those findings in later sections on this program on how to raise your energy levels. Every thought you have can be calculated to determine if it's strengthening or weakening your ability to reconnect to the highest and fastest energy in the universe, the energy of intention. And finally, the highest and fastest energy in the universe. It's called the energy of spirit. This is the ultimate in energy. These frequencies are so supersonically rapid that the presence of disorder, disharmony, and even disease is impossible. These measurable energies consist of the 7 faces of intention talked about earlier in this program. They are the energies of creation. When you reproduce them in yourself, you reproduce the same creative quality of life that called you into existence. They are the qualities of creativeness, of kindness, of love, of beauty, of expansion, of peaceful abundance, and receptivity to all. These are the highest energies of the universal spirit itself. You came into existence from this energy, and you can match up with it energetically as you remove all of the low energy pulsations from your thoughts and feelings. Raising your energy level. There's a vibratory action to your thoughts, your feelings, and your body. I'm asking you to increase those frequencies so they're high enough to allow you to connect to the power of intention. This may sound like an oversimplification, but I hope you'll try raising your energy level as a way to remove the obstacles that prevent you from experiencing the perfection that you're a part of. You cannot remedy anything by condemning it. Again, you cannot remedy anything by condemning it. Underline that in your consciousness. You only add to the destructive energy that's already permeating the atmosphere of your life. When you react to the lower energies you encounter with your own low energies, you're actually setting up a situation that attracts more of the lower energy. For example, if someone behaves in a hateful manner toward you, and you respond by hating them for hating you, you've participated in a lower energy field and impacting all who enter that field. If you're angry at those around you for being angry people, you're attempting to remedy the situation through condemnation. If you're experiencing scarcity or anguish or depression or an absence of love or any inability to attract what you desire, seriously look at how you've been attracting those circumstances into your life. Low energy is an attractor pattern. It shows up because you've sent for it, even if on a subconscious level. It's still yours, and you own it. However, if you practice deliberately raising your energy level by being cognizant of your immediate environment, you'll move more rapidly toward intention and remove all of those self-imposed roadblocks. The obstacles are in the low energy spectrum.
You have been facing the wrong way. The most important insight you can have is to realize that you have been facing the wrong way for the better part of your life. Take a moment, right now, to experience what I mean. Picture yourself in any position that you like, standing, sitting, lying down, whatever is easiest for you to imagine. Now look at that mental picture of yourself. What you see in this exercise is a you who is always looking away from yourself, always looking outside of yourself. You are facing the wrong way. Now imagine being able to shift around and face the opposite direction. If you could in some magical way do so, then you would be facing inward. We've all been taught to look outside of ourselves for sustenance, to look beyond the self for power, love, prosperity, health, happiness, and spiritual fulfillment. We've been conditioned to believe we get life's bounty from somewhere outside of ourselves. But it's possible to reverse our gaze from outward to inward. And when we do, we find an energy we've sensed but not previously identified. There dwells within all human beings a divine energy. The power of this energy permeates our entire being and permits us to perform every function in the vast repertoire of human thoughts and behaviors. There are two aspects to this divine energy. The outer aspect causes the heart to beat and the lungs to inflate and the senses to function. It essentially keeps our physical bodies alive. The inner aspect of this energy is dormant, but it can be awakened. This inner universe is vaster than the outer universe. Inner joy makes all joy that is experienced in the world of the senses seem meaningless. When the divine light within you is experienced directly, it adds a radiance to life unlike anything that can be described with words or pictures. When you discover your sacred self, you awaken this dormant inner energy and let it guide your life. The word most commonly used to describe this inner force is spiritual. When I talk about spirituality and being spiritual, I am describing an attitude toward God and the inner journey of enlightenment. I'm speaking of expanding the godlike qualities of love, forgiveness, kindness, and bliss within ourselves. In my interpretation, spirituality is not dogma or rules. It is light and joy and focuses on the experience of love and inner bliss, radiating those qualities outward. I call the journey to discover your sacred self your sacred quest. You need to begin looking inward at who you are and why you are here instead of outward at the physical world and things within it. There was an instant in time when you were nowhere. The moment before your conception, you were nowhere. Then, in one holy instant, you went from nowhere to now here. There will be another holy instant when you will go from nowhere to now here. We call that moment death, yet you, the divine, changeless, eternal, invisible you, will live on. If it is true that we are a part of an intelligent system, we can assume that we go from nowhere to now here for some purpose. With this realization, you can stop doubting that you are a divine creation with purpose and just accept that you are. You are a part of this intelligent system, and you are here for some divine reason. That reason, you can surely guess, is concerned with the spiritual inner energy I am writing about. Knowing your spiritual self is your sacred quest and your life challenge. So many of us have grown up believing that who we are is this body we carry around, the job we perform, and the religion we practice. Our lives are involved with externals at the same time that we see that they are always changing and shifting. Yet somewhere inside of ourselves, we feel the same. You may not have given that self aspect much of your awareness, but if you do, you will discover an inner self that never changes but is trapped in a changing world. Someday your physical self will probably rest beneath a tombstone that records the date of your birth and the date of your death. But your inner soul knows you are eternal. Knowing this in a way that leaves no room for doubt will greatly enable your sacred quest. When you reach that state, knowing that who you are is the unchanging self, you will be on purpose in your life. Sogyal Rinpoche, in the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, puts this into words that are worth framing. In the modern world, there are few examples of human beings who embody the qualities that come from realizing the nature of mind. So it is hard for us even to imagine enlightenment or the perception of an enlightened being, and even harder to begin to think that we ourselves could become enlightened. Even if we were to think of the possibility of enlightenment, one look at what composes our ordinary mind, anger, greed, jealousy, spite, cruelty, lust, fear, anxiety, and turmoil, would undermine forever any hope of achieving it. Enlightenment, he continues, is real, and each of us, whoever we are, can, in the right circumstances and with the right training, realize the nature of mind, and so know in us what is deathless and eternally pure. This is the promise of all the mystical traditions of the world, and it has been fulfilled and is being fulfilled in countless thousands of human lives. You can be one of those thousands of enlightened humans. This will happen as you discover the nature of your true self and relegate the part of yourself that is centered on the physical to the background where it belongs. From there, it can cheer you on and support your higher self, rather than act in ways that sabotage your true spiritual essence. This whole business of a sacred quest is real, and you can know it, love it, and cherish it. Once you do, you will never want to go back to any way of living that is inconsistent with your divine, though invisible self. You are not that name, that occupation, that social security number, that body. You are eternally light and divine, regardless of what you have done or failed to do, regardless of what family you lived in, or what you may have been labeled. You are holy, and you have a purpose for being here.
Hello, Abraham. It's wonderful to be here in your person. But what I'd really like to talk to you about for a moment is something called collective intention. I'm not looking to attract anything more into my life. I'm looking to see if I can impact the world in such a way with my consciousness, by getting myself in balance, that I can impact others in such a way that we can get the whole world back in balance. Is that possible?
Well, we are appreciating your words very much, but we are wanting to say that if you will start with the premise that the world is already really, really, really in balance. Mm-hmm. In other words, look at the things that are stable and acknowledge the perfection of that. The sun's coming up every morning and the food is continuing to grow. Things that are so big that you can't even imagine contemplating otherwise. And then from that place of aligning with the well-being, then you become an open vortex to well-being and a catalyst for the perpetuation of more things like that. When you come forth as a powerful teacher as you are, we can feel that for a very long time, the driving force within you, and so many, is to assist this world in becoming a better place. Inherent in that very premise is this little awareness that there are things about it that are not so much in a good place. And then, without meaning to, you activate that within yourself, and then you become part of the disallowance of it, and then there is a sort of perpetuation of the same. What almost always happens is your attention to the very thing that you think needs to come into alignment just gets it out of whack within you. So then it keeps coming back around to the same thing. The only thing that you can do anything about is your own alignment. And when you tend to your own alignment and live it through the power of your example, then what happens is those that get in vibrational proximity of it hear from you. You've learned long ago, as have we, that when you try to answer a question that hasn't been asked, it's sort of like pushing a noodle. In other words, it doesn't go very far. But when you are in vibrational alignment with who you really are, then the universe lines you up with those who are ready to ask, who are asking and ready to hear, and then on it goes. We do not see your world in a bad place. We see this contrasting experience as the catalytic experience that you all knew it would be when you decided to come forth. And we see more asking simultaneously than ever before. So the summoning of source energy is greater than it has ever been before. Which means those who are finding alignment with the energy are thriving in new and wonderful ways. And those who aren't are not thriving in new and powerful ways, you see. The best you can do for anyone is to thrive fully and be willing to explain to anyone who asks how it is that you are thriving and what it is that you've discovered. And then just relax and trust that all truly is well.
So when others are not feeling good,
Yes.
when children are starving, when the kinds of things that we call problems in the world exist, it's like if everything in the universe, in the world is perfect, then so is my desire to change it, a part of that perfection.
We agree. In other words, we think that that larger contrasting experience can give birth to a desire within you. And even though it's not personal to your experience because it's on the other side of the world, it is personal to your desire, and you have the ability to create. We agree. Do something that you can do something about, which is align your own energy. And then we soothe you, not in a sort of placating way, but we want to let you know the power of what you do. When you observe and feel the desire that is born from you, and then you get into alignment with it, you do carve a pathway for the future experience of that. And future experiences do happen beneficially from that which you have laid out. As you are able to interact without losing your balance, then you are connected to source energy. You're like a satellite dish that is beaming the signal in a more powerful way. As you pay attention to the way you feel, and nothing is more important than that you feel good, so that you make sure that you've tended to that connection first and foremost, then there is nothing that you cannot influence for the better. And you can see C's part right before your hands. You do have that power of influence. But you got to be tuned into who you are first and foremost before you apply it. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
I feel good.
Yes, you do.
I love you.
I ask my audiences frequently, how many bodies have you been in since you incarnated into this planet on this lifetime? Because one of the great teachers and sages of my life, a man named Muktananda in India, was asked the question, what is real, Swami? What is real? And he said, that is real, which never changes. So anything that is changing doesn't meet the definition of being real. So who are you? What part of you meets that definition? Certainly not that body that you're in. We've all been in so many bodies since we showed up. We were all in a little body about this big that weighed 7 or 8 or 9 pounds. And we were all in a body that was this big, a little toddler, and a teenage body, and a 20-year-old body, and for some, a body that has gone on. We've been in many bodies up and through the 70s and 80s, like myself, 71 years of age. And if you think that body that you are in is real, then you must have thought that about your 10-year-old body as well. So I invite you to go out and bring that 10-year-old body in here, and we'll talk to it. And you smirk and laugh and so on because you realize that that's impossible, because it's not real. It doesn't exist, does it? And the same is true of the body that you walked into this beautiful church here in Assisi tonight. It will be different when you walk out. You'll walk out of here with a different body than you walked in with. So that by that definition, this is all just an illusion. It's just constantly changing, and therefore it isn't real. But there is a part of each and every one of us that can remember being in that 10-year-old body, and that observed it and noticed it, and that you can close your eyes and be there. You can do everything you did when you were 10 or 12 or 20 or 30 or whatever. And so it is to that element of your consciousness, of your awareness, of your reality that I address these remarks. Not the body, not our physical possessions, but our soul, our spirit, our divine mind, whatever we call it. It is to that that is the only thing that is real. And when we learn to live from there, from that place, I call it the higher place, the higher self, or the highest self, the part of us that realizes that all of us, the poet T.S. Eliot said that we shall not cease from exploration. But at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated, but to know it for the first time. The poet spoke of death. I don't. I believe we can return to that place from which we originated. Call it the Tao, call it God, call it soul, and come to know it. And this gathering here for this miraculous journey that we're all on began as an idea. I think it was my idea, but I know that something bigger is always moving the pieces around. And I'm always aware that even though I think that it's me making the choices, I also know that I'm also the spear carrier, or the extra, in a much, much larger drama. And that I am being told how to be. And the more I listen to that voice, that calling, that pulls me in a direction away from where I was in the earlier part of my life, when I lived my life on the basis of my own ego and believed that my self-importance and my fame and my abilities to do things had something to do with my being special. And I've come to realize that it's not that way at all. I've often said that true nobility is not really about being better than anyone else. It's about being better than you used to be. And I think being better than you used to be really means less and less attachment and reliance upon your stuff, your body, your accomplishments, your reputation, your accumulations. Less on that, and more on the inner mantras. See, the inner mantra of the ego, which I've had to learn to shed and tame, is what's in it for me. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What can I do? How much can I get? I'm in competition with. I want more. More, more, more. Everything I have, I own. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. That's the mantra of the ego. You all recognize it. But the mantra of the higher self, the God-realized part of ourself, is how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve?